There are many aspects of American culture that we really don't know a lot about. And one of these aspects is comic books. We know they've been around for a while, and that's about it. And today, I'm tackling the issue of the history of comic books to talk about their long and interesting history. First, we'll start off with the golden age of comic books. And then, we'll move on to the dark age of comic books. And then finally, we'll end on their importance in today's modern society. Beginning with Mark Kelly's article from the Marquette Education System, the Golden Age of Comic Books: Representations of American Culture from the Great Depression to the Civil War. Before beginning a historical study of comic books, it is necessary to shed our modern perception of the medium. Modern culture logic regards comic books as a children's medium, decidedly minor facet of American popular culture. However, research suggests that during the Golden Age, comic books had a large cultural base of many ages. A Yank Weekly article published in November of 1945 cited the estimates of the Market Research Company of America, which found that 70 million Americans, roughly half of the U.S. population, read comic books. The ages of readers heavily favored children, with 95% of all boys and 91% of all girls between the ages of 6 and 11 reading comic books. The study also revealed a high percentage of adult readers, with 41% of men and 28% of women aged 18 to 30 admitting to regularly reading comics. This impressive study proves that in the Golden Age, comic books were not limited to children. And another popular aspect of the Golden Age was tackling on issues such as civil rights and, more commonly, politics. In covers of older comic books, you would see a more popular one was Captain America punching Hitler in the face and Superman riding rockets with propaganda signs saying to buy war bonds and help fight against the Japan Nazis. This was political propaganda, but it's also another factor that made the Golden Age of comics that much more popular. And with the rise of popularity in the Golden Age comes the downfall in the Dark Age of comic books. TV Trope's article, The Dark Age of Comic Books, states that the Dark Age of comic books was a accumulation of a gradual move towards an older audience for comic books, particularly those featuring superheroes that had started in the Bronze Age of comic books. It's sometimes also called the Iron Age of comic books, to follow the gold, silver, bronze progression. But Dark Age is the much more common term, usually characterized as a darker and edgier period featuring an increased focus on sex, violence, dark and gritty portrayals of characters. Involved much of the content produced during this era is very controversial among comic book fans and is, depending on whom you ask, regarded as either a welcome breath of fresh air after a medium languished for so long of its own version of the American-aged ghetto, or a period of grotesque excess and immaturity, or a little of both. Now, after the Dark Age comes now the importance of comic books in our society. Why comics and comic books are important today, read thespirit.org. Comics are a global sensation these days. The easiest way to see their popularity is to check the current lists of top 20 US movies of all time. Number 1 and 2 on the list are the fantasy film Avatar and then Titanic. But 9 of the top 20 films are comic books or cartoon movies, including Batman, Spider-Man, The Lion King, and Shrek. The rest of the top 20 list are dominated by fantasies including Harry Potter, Star Wars, and Lord of the Rings, all of which own a huge sum of debt to the past century of comics. Now that you know at least a little more about the history of comic books, you'll understand that they were more than just the nerdy little books that kids read in the corner.